sorry, it keeps changing the slides as I move my mouse. Then if you stand over here under the penumbra, as the disk of the moon moves away, you'll start to see the sun again, and that's what's called the penumbra region. And then both the penumbra and the umbra are completely gone when you see the sun completely as it normally is. So when you're anticipating a solar eclipse, you're first under the penumbra, then you're under the umbra, and then you're under the penumbra again. Now it's time for a mini movie. This is actual footage from a total solar eclipse seen in Turkey. Here we go.
Here we go. Hier, ich sehe die Corona schon hier auf meinem. Boah. Boah.
Okay, back to our presentation again. Alright, let's restart the slideshow. Let's talk about Islam and solar eclipses. Now, as you probably noticed in that movie, you heard some shouting, some clapping, some whistling, and what actually happened was people gather. People come from all over the world to see solar eclipses. So in this case, there was a huge crowd of people. They had their video cameras, they had their special UV protection sunglasses, and they were able to watch this eclipse, and they all became very excited and started clapping when they saw it happen. But for Muslims, how do we handle something like an eclipse? Well, there's actually something called the eclipse prayer. Now, you may have had the opportunity to pray it, or you may have not. But let's talk about it. The Prophet ﷺ would hold a special congregational prayer, meaning all the community is supposed to come together to do it, known as Salatul Kusuf. Now, it's not fard, but it's highly encouraged that you participate in a prayer like this should an eclipse actually take place. He, ﷺ, would offer 2 rakat. In the first rak'ah, he would stand, make ruku', stand again, make ruku' again, make 2 sujood, and then rise for the second rakat and repeat the sequence. So this is a little bit different than our normal prayers because there are 2 standings and 2 ruku'as, as opposed to 1 standing and 1 ruku' as there usually is in prayer. He, ﷺ, would prolong the standing, bowing, and prostrating during this prayer. And here's a hadith about eclipses and about the eclipse prayer. Narrated Abu Musa, the sun eclipsed and the Prophet got up, ﷺ, being afraid that it would be the hour or the day of judgment. He went to the mosque and offered a prayer with the longest standing, bowing, and prostration that I had ever seen him doing. Then he, ﷺ, said, "These signs which Allah sends do not occur because of the life or death of somebody, but Allah makes His worshippers afraid by them. So when you see anything thereof, proceed to remember Allah, invoke Him and ask for His forgiveness." So let's talk about how we should handle something like a solar eclipse. Now, maybe when you were younger in elementary school, well, at least I remember when I was in elementary school, there was a solar eclipse once, and they brought all the kids to the playground, and we all got to put on these special sunglasses, and we all got to watch the eclipse, and it was really exciting and fun. But as Muslims, we're not supposed to be standing around with our video cameras or wearing our sunglasses. We're supposed to be praying. We're supposed to pray a long prayer. Why? Because this is a sign of not only Allah, but this sign is similar to the Day of Judgment. If we read in the Quran or like in Hadith about the different signs that will happen or the different occurrences that will happen on the Day of Judgment, we know that the stars will fall, losing their luster. The sun will be folded up. The moon will be put into the sun, and they all will be put into hellfire on the Day of Judgment. Now, something like an eclipse, it looks very similar to something that will happen on the Day of Judgment, to either the sun losing its light or the moon going into the sun. So when we see these things, we should be afraid. We should remember Allah. We should remember the Day of Judgment and the amazing phenomena that are going to occur and the scary things that are going to occur. We should ask Him for forgiveness. We should remember that day. It doesn't mean that you can't look at the eclipse and you can't appreciate it and appreciate the perfection which Allah has created the universe, but you should also be afraid of Allah. I mean, something like whistling and clapping and shouting, this isn't appropriate for the Muslim whose heart feels fear and whose heart is humbled and whose heart is remembering the Day of Judgment. So, with that in mind, let's go ahead and proceed to your homework. Homework is due Friday by 9 p.m. You have some short answer questions. Number 1. If the 3 elements mentioned in the slides are all that is needed for a solar eclipse to occur, then why doesn't a solar eclipse occur once every month when the moon returns to its old moon phase, as it does monthly? Number 2. What would an eclipse look like if the sun was 800 times the diameter of the moon and the sun was 400 times farther away from the earth than the moon? Thirdly, why do you think the Prophet ﷺ prolonged each part of Salatul Kusuf? Number 4. What happened to the Prophet ﷺ on the day a solar eclipse took place that made him say, "These signs which Allah sends do not occur because of the life or death of somebody"? So inshallah, with that we will conclude this lesson. Jazakallah khair. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.